Good morning and welcome to Behind the Screen. Got to unmute my mic. Uh, I'm JM, and this is a show where we sit around, we talk about beauty in gamings, board games, role-playing games, card games, video games, miniature games, games that inspire us, games that kind of pull us towards this ideal of beauty. And it is, of course, episode 250. Thank you all for joining me on these. It's kind of crazy that I've done 250 of these. It seems like only yesterday when I hit episode 100 and was like, I'm going to talk about philosophy and gaming, and that seemed to go over fairly well. Good morning to Padre and John Doom and Mark and Tink and Ronnie and DM James and several others whose names I can't read because the blue on the background is very hard to read. I apologize. I can see you here. Hello. So today we're talking about philosophy in gaming. And, oh, and hey, Mark. And I wanted to talk about something that hit me as I was driving through Dallas. I was driving through the DFW area, and we have a lot of suburbs, and we have a lot of cookie cutter suburbs. And what I mean by that is where every house is identical as far as the eye can see. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how the idea of there's sort of a false sense of community. There's a false sense of togetherness that this creates, this idea that all of our houses look the same, so therefore we are obviously in this thing together. And as I was thinking about conformity, I was obviously thinking about gaming and philosophy because that is my want, and it got me thinking about Hasbro WotC Dungeons and Dragons, because it is the largest game in the industry, and is very much sort of this a lot of people talk about it almost as if it is this one game that rules them all, and that all these other games, there are actually several people on the internet who I will not point at, but will obliquely reference in the fact that basically they're like, if you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're actively harming the gaming hobby. Like, the current edition of D&D is the only game you should be playing, because otherwise you're just hurting the hobby. Whoa, that just hurts my heart. And I think I've kind of pinpointed why that is. And I've talked about this before, that the idea of beauty, there used to be this triad of absolutes, truth, goodness, and beauty. And beauty was kind of the weight that kept the other two, truth and goodness, from pulling out into extremes. As long as we had beauty, we kind of had this equilateral triangle. And like most of our modern pithy sayings, the original context of which has been completely lost. For example, I'm sure you've all heard, the customer is always right. That's not the saying. The saying is, in matters of taste, the customer is always right. Meaning, like, the aesthetics, the customer's choice is what matters. Not that the customer is right in all things, because it's not. To quote Mallrats, the customer's always an a-hole. But the idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder has come to mean that beauty is completely subjective. And that's not what the original context of that quote was. And I think when we look at gaming, if we believed that conformity was the only thing that created a sense of community and the only thing that matters, then yes, we would all play 5th edition. But I think that conformity is the enemy of beauty. Let's take games, because that's what we're talking about. Even when you look at designs, like take a look at the OSR. For a while, the majority of the design constraints was it has to be built off BX. Maybe not has to be, but was chosen to be built off BX. And within those lines, within that conformity, there were just a ton of people who were drawing different pictures inside those lines. I mean, even if, I mean, John Doom could speak to this. Even if you played the same campaign over and over and over again, the different groups that you play with, the different game masters, are going to wildly change the tone and style and beauty of that game. He played in two Han Cluster games that he said were, although they were the same story, were wildly different. Yeah, wildly, right? I could run the same, and I have. I've run Arms of Nargosh Tor probably a dozen times. Same game system, same GM, same module, and it always plays out different. Because the beauty of gaming comes into the, let's call it the chaos of everyone being in adding their own unique admixture to the adventure. If the rules are the truth of the game, the unflexible reality of the way the game is supposed to be played, and the goodness is the GM's kind of guiding the players through the scenario, then the beauty is where all of that mixes together to become something completely unique. And that's really where beauty lies. It lies in these moments of sublime uniqueness. And I think that's why role-playing games are beautiful. That's why I love hearing people's stories about games. A lot of people are like, oh God, I don't want to hear another, no shit, there we were story in gaming. And I'm like, no, that's where the beauty of role-playing games happen. Padre says, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, which is why I dropped the party into a dungeon. Yeah, I was just going to say that is a great take on that phrase. I like beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but the rest of the Disney princesses are in its belly. So, there you go. So that's why I don't have a problem buying new fantasy heartbreakers. In fact, Tink and I were talking this morning. I was like, I think I might start getting rid of some games. And I was waxing about my love of second edition Dungeons and Dragons, and like, do I really need Hyperborea and Axe? And she was quick to point out, hey, if you like a genre of music, do you start thinking about what is the only band that I want to listen to out of that genre? No, you enjoy the whole of the genre. And I'm like, yeah, it's a really good point. A lot of people are negative on fantasy heartbreakers. And if you're not familiar with the term fantasy heartbreaker is yet another fantasy RPG that has elves and dwarves, humans, and a vaguely European background. Who cares? I love the uniqueness of each of these. I have a ton of OSR games. A ton. And they each bring something unique to the table. I may never play them, but I love reading the books, yes, Padre, and mining them for their ideas and seeing what comes about. I have more Savage Worlds products than I could ever run. And I keep buying more because each book, each author offers me up something unique. Each new swag product that I purchase, each new Ace Kickstarter that I back, some of them have overlap, and that's really okay. So if you're sitting there going, well, JM, what does this actually have to do with philosophy and gaming? Embrace what is unique about your table. I have achieved, as I said, gaming singularity. I really need a way to have a light come on for me. And I'm running the same game in the same kingdom for two different groups. And those two groups could not be more wildly different. One group is very tactical and enjoys dungeon crawling and combat, and the other one is very much into the role playing and kind of the more silly side of things. And I love running for both. If I was trying to run the same game across all of my groups, I would be bored. The monotony of it would drain the joy and the beauty out of gaming for me. Honestly, I think this is something that can help counter GM burnout. trying new games, trying new systems, trying new settings exposes us to new ideas, which can kindle our imagination and rekindle our love of this hobby. Hey, Cryptrike, good to see you. Nice. I do the same thing. The first and second edition books and modules. It's interesting to me. All right, I'll wax just a little bit. I'll digress a little bit. It's interesting to me that we have so many what are considered classic settings and monsters and modules from the first and second edition era of the game. That the number of what are considered great adventures grow further and farther between the more Dungeons and Dragons became self-referential. And then we even see Wizards and then Hasbro rehashing those classics. And those tend to be the books that do best for them. Princess of the Apocalypse, Saltmarsh, Storm King's Thunder. What's that other one? The one with the vampire? No, I'm just kidding. Curse of Strahd. Right? These are sort of these classics that keep kind of coming back. Look at Call of Cthulhu, or Chaosium. They brought back the Grey Knight. They keep Horror on the Orient Express and Masks of Nyarlathotep constantly in new editions. That's not to say they haven't had others. There aren't other great things. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about comics and how the Savage Sword of Conan in the 70s had gore and nudity and things that you would never expect to see in comics and couldn't get away with in comics today without like a massive like warning or content label or having the book shrink wrapped in plastic. And I think that's the reason this all ties back. Those earlier books and modules were not bound by this constraint or consensus of what the current gamer wants. And there wasn't this attempt to sand off all of the edges that might poke or stick or may not make sense with the rest of the stuff we're publishing, because they were like, this is a cool idea and I just want to run with it. And there was a passion in the game design back then. And some of them are being re-released poorly, but some of them, like, I have the Dark Tower reprint. I have Into the Borderlands. Like, I like the is it Goodman Games that does that? The republishing of the old adventures, and they update them to 5th edition. I don't care about the second half, but I really like having like clean copies and then all of the commentary on it. Oh, there we go, Cryptrite. That's a great point. It was more pure. The density of effort and creativity was high. Yes, it's self-referential, and here's the thing. They made a conscious decision. If you go back and look at the design diaries for 3rd edition, the design team made the conscious decision to remove the exterior references and the exterior influences of Dungeons and Dragons. So I would consider that like Appendix N in 1st edition D&D. And if you read through the 2nd edition books, you can't read through the player's handbook without constantly bumping into real-world references. Play a paladin if you like Charlemagne. Play a fighter if you want to play Hiawatha or Beowulf. Play a wizard if you enjoy, Merlin. Like, they had these references. I mean, that's how I came to Charlemagne and Hiawatha, was reading the 2E player's guide. And they were like, no, D&D has grown large enough that we can just reference ourselves. And I think when you lose that thread, maybe not initially, because obviously the 3rd edition design team were coming out of people who played and loved 1st and 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. But the longer that goes on, you're bringing new writers and new people into this Um, again, very self-referential, very sandblasted, um, smooth environment where crazy ideas don't get bounced around as much. And then, you know, at its that's kind of at its best. At its worst, you get things that completely crap all over the original ideas, because you have somebody who was only raised in the self-referential echo chamber, and I'm looking at the guy who decided to make Cap a Nazi in or a Hydra agent in that run of Captain America. I'm like, you do realize that Captain America was written by two Jewish guys to inspire people during a time. So yeah, obviously not. You're a product of this echo chamber and you don't understand where this is coming from. So Padre says, yes, seeing similar things in writing. I'm writing about this because I'm cool. So here's the thing, and Stephen King said this, and this is, I apply this to game design. Don't write for everyone. If you try and write for everyone, you're going to write something that no one likes. Find the one person you like writing for, because then you're guaranteed that they're going to love it. And if anyone else happens to love it, that's gravy. All of the games I've designed, all of the adventures that I write for Savage Worlds, I write for the people playing at my table. I've made this comment before, and I know it sounds stupid, but like every time I go to run Jackals, there's a joy of like, man, this game was written the way I like to play and run games. Yes, that's the point. The fact that other people like Jackals and Urban Decay, fantastic. But this is the way I like running games, and this is, you know, I wrote this game with my play groups in mind. So anytime we go to Jackals, that group, they're ready. Trip Wright did get to play Jackals for the first time, and I thoroughly enjoyed having him and John Doom and Tink on that adventure. And Dream Shaper got to play in it, and Evan's cousin Mark was in that. It was awesome. Yes, all right. So I'm not I won't get into this, but Dennis Detweiler, the brain behind Delta Green, once had an amazing tweet that stuck with me. He's like, you can either create or you can respond to critics. And critics can spend 100% of their time talking about you. You can never beat a troll. So your choice is to ignore them and write and create, or get sucked into a battle you can't win. I did run Jackals while you were live streaming. Was it a coincidence? It was totally a coincidence, DM James. So I would challenge all of us. Try something new. This summer, try a new game. John Doom was running our Savage Worlds game, and it was like, we're going to try Shadow Dark, which on a session that I couldn't make it. But something new, and it at least sparked some discussion. Pick up an old school game. Pick up something that you're like, this is something on my shelf that I've always wanted to run. Let's run a one-shot of it. Don't worry about making your game conform to your favorite live streamers, YouTube commentators, or even your friends' games. Run the game that is unique to you, and I promise you it will be beautiful. So, that's it. That's my little conformity versus beauty. I don't think the two are compatible. I think you can find beauty in conformity, but that the longer conformity goes on, the more beauty is choked out for the sake of sameness, and that just kills passion. If you like these sort of topics, I will be on 2 different podcasts here in the near future. I'll post the links on Iconic. I'll post the links in our Discord. Going back on Pelham's Wastelands, I love talking with Arlen. We're going to talk about R. Scott Baker's Second Apocalypse series, so if you want my thoughts on the best, darkest, most twisted fantasy series of all time. I will be glad to post that. And then, what's the other one that I'm doing? Oh, I'm going to be going on Grail Country Gaming to talk about just gaming and philosophy and theology. If you guys are at all interested in that, I would be glad to share that as well. I'm going to be at ChupacabraCon this weekend, and I am leaving on Thursday, so there will be no stream till we get back next week. I know it's been crazy, but that is the way my health sometimes goes. So, 250 episodes. Thank you to everyone. You are the reason I do this show. There are times where I don't feel like doing this show. But what I love about Behind the Screen is it's essentially just a discussion between me and a close group of friends. And those of you who join on YouTube or who comment on YouTube, Antigua and I think it was Daenerys Tavern I saw pop up. Make sure I got names correct. Daenerys Tavern, yes. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to see you guys as well. And John Doom, not today, but like when I get off the channel, let's chat about when we can play some Path of Exile 2. I'm really looking forward to that. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay gaming. I am JM. This has been Behind the Screen, and I will see you all later. Until next time, have a good one, everybody.